Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about Jasmy coin. Now, it's been a while since I covered this coin, maybe even more than a month ago, maybe even 2 months ago, but I just know it's been a damn while. So we have a lot of, new price action we can look at. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you do want me to support and upload this coin more often, just simply leave a like and a comment, right? The best way for me to know is obviously based off views, based off likes and comments. When people engage, then I know obviously, this is what they care about. And when there's low engagement, it just screams to me that, this is something that my community doesn't really care about, or maybe people just in general don't care about this coin too much. But yeah, anyways, right? If you are new, and like I said, there's going to be support and stuff, then we will be covering Jasmy multiple times a week if that's something you guys like. Anyways, let's just jump right into the price action. Now, let's go back in time just for 30 seconds to a minute. Right, we can see that we had a nice consolidation area from 2022 practically until 2024, until mid February, right? Then mid February, we had a big, nice change of character. We saw huge momentum. Then, of course, more sideways movement. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, there was another rally in practically late May. After that, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we had the boring summer in 2024. All right, things kind of slowed down, but then we had a nice rally in the beginning of November, right? We went up a good amount. We went up all the way 250%. So you could have made 3.5 times your money if you bought somewhere, in this green box. And of course, after that, ladies and gentlemen, the whole market started to sell off and people started to panic, right? We did go below this big support, but ladies and gentlemen, that's more because for two things. Number one, manipulation. And number two, we did have this imbalance over here that needed to get filled. Now, imbalance is practically when something moves up or down very, very quickly, right? The market doesn't like that. So it usually comes back to the same price zone to correct it, okay? This is very important to note because, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that, we did have a little bit of imbalance here from this April pump, right? We went up, we pretty much retested off of these support levels. And of course, then we sold off once again, but we were selling off very slowly and fundamentally. We also did fill up this whole entire imbalance that was left over here. And we did go into a institutional candle, right? We went into this institutional candle right over here, right? This March-April combination was a bank candle, and we can see we tapped perfectly into it, right? If I go something like this, we tapped perfectly into it. Not only that, ladies and gentlemen, but we are, creating a reverse head and shoulders and a support zone off of this bank candle. So what does that mean? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for me, this screams these are going to be the Jasmy bottoms, right? These March and the March times and mid-June are going to be as low as Jasmy gets until bear season. Because like I said, we do have an institutional candle that got tapped into. This imbalance, right? The middle of this candle got filled up. We have a support forming, and of course we have a reverse head and shoulders, right? We have a shoulder over here, we have a head over here, and a shoulder over here. Yes, it looks a little bit deformed and a little bit funny, but then it's still valid, right? It is still valid. So many bullish confirmations on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, right? Since we have to count where our lows are, and if they're going higher or lower, we also have a low over here. We have a low, but look, on the weekly, we have a higher low, right? This black candle's bottom, this one over here, is higher than this one. But guess what? This black candle's bottom, right? Boom, is higher than this one. So you can see just even visually, right, that we are going up higher and higher. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so just stay with me, right? I know a lot of technical analysis was just on the screen. It was just explained. And for some people that don't know, any of this stuff, it could be a little bit confusing. But just to reiterate everything, it is bullish. Okay, it is practically bullish. Now, we do see, right, we do have a little bit of a rejection today, but that's okay. A little bit of a pullback could be possibly expected. Nothing too crazy, right? If we do go down, it's going to be by a couple percent, maximum 10%, which some people find that a lot. For me, I don't find that a lot too much because honestly, the market 10% this way or that way can happen even within a 4 hour span. So, you know, I'm just looking for potential small retracement to then continue to go to the upside. Now, here's the very important thing for Jasmy, right? The very important thing for Jasmy is to actually get above this green zone because this is going to be our next relevant zone. Okay. It's very big, right? We can see multiple times for multiple weeks. We were here for multiple weeks. I mean, literally from middle of February until mid-May, we were here. Again, at one point, boom, touch. Here for 3 weeks, we touched, right? Multiple times here, we touched. So this zone is very important, which is why we probably also are getting a little bit of a rejection right now. But I'm telling you, the next thing we are going to be looking to do is to burst through this zone. And once we do, right, and once we actually retest and reclaim it, right, then ladies and gentlemen, we should be looking for bigger and better pumps on a consistent basis. Okay, on a consistent basis. The next zone for me would be somewhere over here, right? Somewhere over here. The reason why I say this, right, and I believe Jasmy will fly, is because, that is where our next weekly institutional candle is. And of course, we also have a point here. So it would also be a head and shoulders forming, right? But do not worry because this is not going to be Jasmy's cycle top, right? We are not going to be selling off and crashing from here. We could see a minor retracement from the tops or even a decent one where we go down 20-30% from here. But ultimately, in the end, it's because we're looking to be going sideways to eventually start bursting to the upside. Here's the deal, people, right? Here's the deal. The reality is this type of price action, right? This sideways movement, and eventually when we get up to somewhere over here, right? Even though right now it does look like an aggressive trend downwards and we're kind of going sideways and eventually we're going to start going up, the bigger picture is that this whole entire zone, practically from mid-February until whenever we blow up, is going to be sideways consolidation on a higher time frame, right? Remember, that's what people saw back down here. People saw the exact same thing, right? People saw the exact same thing and then eventually exploded. So it's going to be the exact same thing here, where this is going to be more or less our bottom. This is going to be more or less our top. Anything in the middle is just kind of noise. And then eventually, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, you will see this, right? You will see this. We are going to see nice momentum burst up to the upside very quickly and very aggressively, right? I do believe our main first target is going to be roughly 16 cents, right? That is our first main target. Why? Well, because we have a weekly institutional candle over here. So we could see a possible little rejection, but if momentum is strong, then maybe we'll only sell off for a day or two to then continue to push up higher and higher, right? Our next zone after that would be 26 cents. So why? Because that is the last relevant resistance in this whole entire chart. And in case we still continue to push higher and higher, then for me, what's most likely going to be the end of the road in terms of high probability is roughly 36 to 40 cents. Well, why do I say that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, because that is going to take out this top of 35 cents, right? So, the market, if Jasmy, if the market's satisfied with Jasmy's price and price action, it could very well top out, do a typical institutional candle type of here, and then have an aggressive sell-off, right? So 40 cents should be on the cards this cycle, okay? If we go and look at something like Jasmy's, tokenomics, and we look at Jasmy's market cap, we can see we're under a billion. We're under a billion. So if we were to 10x from here, we'd be 16 cents at 8 billion. If we were to double and be at 32 cents, we'd be at 16 billion. So, it would take roughly 20 billion market cap to hit all-time highs and to sell off, which is more than realistic, in my opinion, for a coin like Jasmy and just how aggressive this cycle is going to be. But yeah, ultimately, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think about this coin. Do you want more, updates and reviews? If you do, please let me know, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.